Warning. This video discusses topics like abuse and how it affects society at large. If this is an issue for you, please do not proceed with the video. Alright, today we're going to be talking about the enforcing emotion of a society. So what is the enforcing emotion of society? Well, basically it is the emotion that is used to ensure that the culture's values and traditions are followed. It is completely impossible to use a positive emotion for this. And the best way to display what these enforced emotions look like is to look at how children are treated and how it is enforced on children. So there are 10 enforcing emotions, and they are split in half between long and short variations. Short variations are designed to only really apply in a more social setting, whereas long enforcing emotions are designed to apply even in private life. The enforcing emotions are as follows: fear, paranoia, sadness and depression, disgust and purging, shame and guilt, anger and hate. Alright, let's start off by looking at fear and paranoia. The best way to describe how fear is put on the people is through more physical abuse. Basically, the whole point of fear is to make the kids fear their authority figures, because in their mind, if they can fear the authority figures, then they will comply with the cultural norms. Paranoia is the long version of fear. Paranoia, unlike fear, is not really about physical abuse. It's not about beatings. It's not about none of that stuff. In reality, paranoia is more along the lines of gaslighting the kid. When the kid is, not doing what you want them to, a parent under paranoia society would gaslight them into questioning their very reality. So, what is communicated to the kid under a fear-based society is, like I said earlier, the fear of authority. However, the difference is that in paranoia, the gaslighting communicates to the kid a fear of everything. Moving on to a sadness-based society and a depression-based society. Under a sadness-based society, the goal is to make the child feel a form of sadness in terms of their abilities. So whenever the child attempts to impress their parental figure is going to refrain from giving them praise in an attempt to quote-unquote improve them and make them better. But what this actually communicates to the kid is that they are never good enough for anything, really. Depression, on the other hand, is a much more hands-on approach to sadness. Basically, it is the idea of making the child sad with any means possible. It's not simply refraining from affection, it is actively making the child sad. Like, for example, if the child does something you don't want, then you might kill the family pet. That would be a depression-based society. What this communicates to the kid is that all of their efforts and everything they do are completely worthless. Everything they love, everything they know is completely worthless to them. Effectively crushes their spirit. Now we move on to disgust and purging-based societies. In a disgust-based society, there are a set of things that people will see as disgusting and will act disgusted by, which will in turn, through mimicry, cause the kid to also be disgusted by what the adults are disgusted by. Purging, on the other hand, is where things that the kid does is seen as disgusting. So basically, in a purging-based society, they enforce, they basically make the child feel disgusted about themselves for disobeying or doing something they weren't supposed to. And so then they don't do it again because they view it as disgusting. Alright, so what a disgust-based society communicates is that there are things that are disgusting. That certain things that would not normally be disgusting to people outside of a disgust-based society would be disgusting. Whereas in a purging-based society, you are disgusting. You produce the disgusting. Alright? Then let's move on to shame and guilt-based societies. These are the two most common enforcing emotions. A shame-based society, the tool is embarrassment. So if they do something you don't like, you embarrass them. And in a guilt-based society, if they do something you don't like, you morally guilt them. You appeal to their moral ideals, and you guilt them that way. A guilt-based society is typically done via religion. That is where it usually starts out. But what a shame-based society communicates to the kid is that you are shameful, and what a guilt-based society communicates to a kid is you are always guilty. Then we move on to anger and hate-based societies. In an anger-based society, if something wrong happens, then you blame the thing that went wrong. So, for example, if something falls off of a table and breaks, then you would blame the table. Even if no one was there to push it off, you would blame the table. And just like in a disgust-based society, it is enforced via mimicry. So the kid will enforce that anger and will always blame something. They will always blame something for what is done. Hate, on the other hand, is a very repercussion-based system. Alright, so let's say that one kid gave their sibling a black eye. Under a hate-based society, the adult, in order to make sure that the kid knows what they put their sibling through, would be given a black eye by the adult. And so what this communicates to the kids is really simple, and something that is there's actually a saying in English for an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. That there always must be repercussions for absolutely every single wrong. So, what do these things have to do with politics and culture? Well, in a fear-based society, it causes a constant struggle for authority. So everyone is constantly fighting to be the one on top. In a paranoia-based society, doomsday preparation is treated as a virtue. So preparing for disaster is always the most important thing. And there's always looking for the next possible disaster to prepare for. For a sadness-based society, there is a never-ending race to best their enemies. So it will always be ultra-competitive. There will always be unnecessary competition on every level of such a society. Under a depression-based society, you will have nihilism, where everyone basically does either what they wish or they end up dying. pretty much. And so it's basically nihilism, a society full of severely depressed people. We then have disgust-based societies. A disgust-based society would be a society that simply cannot tolerate things, no matter how much things progress. So, really the difference between disgust-based society and pretty much anything else is that they are disgusted by normal things like poo. Don't poo in your food. But they're also disgusted at things that aren't normally disgusting, that are not naturally disgusting. For example, a particular race. So, a disgust-based society would not be able to tolerate, let's say, a particular race or religion. But it would stop at those things. They would just not be able to tolerate that, and it would stop. However, a purging-based society is a society that is always purging one thing after another. Once they are disgusted at one thing and get rid of it, they will then find something else to be disgusted by to get rid of. It is a never-ending purging of society. We then have a shame-based society, which basically produces the superiority of the group at the expense of the individual. So, basically, where individuals constantly sacrifice their own needs for the perceived needs of the group, no matter how small those needs of the group are, and no matter how large the needs of the individual are. Doesn't matter. In a guilt-based society, however, honor is the most important aspect of life. Whatever that manifests in your particular guilt-based society, it just means that there are certain things that people will obsess about to the death and will die over. Anger-based societies will never be able to claim any kind of imperfections in their society. They will always blame something else for something that they have done or something that has happened in their society. And a hate-based society is always seeking to pursue justice, which sounds great, except they will always be pursuing justice for even the smallest things. So, even the smallest grievance against a hate-based society will result in a declaration of war because they will be seeking to pursue justice. Phew. Alright. This is a difficult video to go through. But I hope you liked this video and I hope you learned something. If you want to support the channel, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. See y'all!